Good day, everyone. So today we are going to talk about the onboarding and setup of Venlearn software. So the first thing we are going to do is to create our organization accounts. So as you can see, we first enter the name of our organization. So in this case, the organization is called Venlearn International School. So automatically the system creates a short name as well as a code for our organization that is unique to our organization. And then the next thing is to choose an ownership, which is a private entity. And then we can decide the type. It's a school, a learning center, or an individual tutor. We choose school and we select this country where our school is resident. So it is in Nigeria. And then we select a state for our school, which is, say, for example, Lagos State. So the next item is to choose an admin account. So an admin is the person who has the most privilege in the software. So we can say our admin here is Venlearn. That's the username. Username will help us log into the accounts, and then we can choose an email as well. info@venlearn.com. So we can select a password for our accounts. So we choose a password as we desire. Then we can create a school. And now is the time we can log in to our school. So now we choose a school group. So a school group is like a self-containing group in a school. So for example, some schools have pre-nursery school, primary and secondary school, as well as college. And each of these entities are sort of independent of each other, or would I say they have a different sort of administration and they are managed differently. They have different report cards, settings, they have different subjects, and so on and so forth. So it makes sense to categorize them under school groups. So in this our case, we are going to talk about, say, a secondary school group. So we can call it high school. Some school call it college. So as the case may be, you can choose whatever school group you want. And remember, you can always come and add more school groups because some schools have multiple school groups. So you can create an account, and then you go to the next step, which is to select a school name for your report cards. So you can select a different name from your organization name, or if you want your school to still have the same organization name in their report card, you can just use organization name here. You can choose an address, says 19A Lekki Phase 1. You can choose your school motto, say it's excellence in education. You can choose a school head title. So some schools use director, some proprietor or proprietors, as the case may be. So you can choose a name for your head title. In our case, we're using Mr. John. So you can also choose a website, venlearn.com, as your school website. So you can continue. So the next item is to set our academic session. So depends on the session you currently are when you are filling this form. You can select the session, the start here and the end here. In our case, we leave us as our default. And there's also a field called structure. So structure tells the kind of semester or term structure your school uses. So in our own case, it's a 3-term structure, which is the first term, second term, and third term. And then we can select the first term option here because that's the term we are currently focused on, or that's the current term we are signing up on. You can also as well choose 2-semester system, 4-quarter system, as the case may be for your organization. So we can finish setup. Now our school has been created, and now we can see the dashboard. Currently, there is nothing to be done on this. There's nothing that has been done on this dashboard. And so we start, there is a notification here to link an account to a staff record. We have not added a staff yet, so we'll leave that for now. And there are some to-dos we have to do to ensure we are good to go. So the first thing we're going to do is to go to the administration portal. Now, before we go there, I would sort of skim through all the modules that are available for us on this software. So the first is administration. So under administration, we have school groups, sessions, calendar, and events. So we also have people. Under people, we have sub-modules, students, staff, guardians, and accounts for these entities. We have academic, we have subjects, classes, and arms. We also have org structures where we have departments and designations for schools that have various department structures. Then we also have performance where we can manage assessments, rating entry, results, attendance, and CBT import. So we also have results configuration. In this module, we can configure our grading, our remarks, as well as our ratings. So we also have attendance. We can mark daily attendance and see statistics, analytics on attendance. We also have the curriculum feature where we talk about templates, outlines, scheme of works, and lesson plans. So we also have a digital learning feature where we can create a virtual library, a coursework, CBT assessment, study materials, and sort of create students group. We also have timetable. We can set up configuration for a timetable, create a class timetable, an assessment timetable, and configure venues for our assessments. So we also have welfare where we have incidents and incidents category. In this module, we can report incidents, be it medical incidents or accidents like injuries or crashes. We also have extracurriculum activities. We have clubs, sport houses, prefects, and roles. If you have a boarding school, you can manage hostels, allocation, and rooms. We have library feature where we have books and borrowings. We have inventory. We can track our inventory, record items, type and categories, their suppliers, purchases, issuance, stock levels, and so on. We also have the finance where we can set up our fees and the breakdown of our fees, and then we can get fee reports. And we have reporting module where we can get student reports, the broadsheet, the result analytics, assessment reports, CBT assessment reports, attendance analytics, billing and hosting. So that's more or less more of the modules we have. So for this configuration, we are going to focus on the school group. Okay, so we have to do some configuration before we can be rest assured that this school is ready for use. So the first item is to go to school groups. So remember, during our setup, we created a group, high school. We can add new groups here, say nursery and primary school, as well as pre-nursery school. We can also do that. So if we have a primary school, for instance, so we can write primary, or we can say nursery, and primary. So we can say NPS as the short name. We can as well create another school, say pre-nursery or crèche. So we can choose a short name for it. So in this case now we have created school groups. So this depends largely on your school. So if your school only have the high school, you should create only one school group for high school, or you can just leave it as the name of the school. If your school have different categories like nursery and primary as well as pre-nursery, you can as well separate nursery school from primary school, especially if they are actually different. They have different kind of reports, different kinds of subjects, as the case may be. So you should know what suits your schools and do it. So in this tutorial, we're going to focus on the nursery, the high school instead. So if we click on the high school, we discover that there are various tabs we need to set. So the first thing we do, we leave this at default, the identity. We go to settings. So we ensure everything is here. Academic session is still first term. We leave at default. We can change it if we want. We can choose a PMB. So let's say the PMB is PMB 1526. So we can also choose a school logo, right? So we can select a logo from our file system and then choose a logo that's suitable for us. Whatever the logo is, we can choose that, but we would leave that. Then we can also decide what title we want our report sheet or report card to have. So since this is high school, we can say this is high school reports, right? So it really depends on your use case. So we leave the school leadership as is. So there's what we call students numbering. So every school usually have what we call the admission number or registration number. So admission number is a unique number used to identify each student of a school. So this students numbering section helps us create the admission number syntax so that each time we create a new student, they're automatically assigned an admission number based on the format that is set for this admission number. So for example, this is Venlearn International School. So each of these, some schools have a prefix on the admission number. So we can choose a prefix VIS for Venlearn International School. What it means is that every admission number must be prefixed by VIS. So that is highly dependent on your own school. Then there's what we call admission number syntax, right? So it shows how we want our admission number to appear. So for example, we have that prefix come first, session next, and then number comes next. So in that case, what we'll just do is to say prefix, right? Session, and then number. In this case, we want a 4-digit number. So what we have just done is for our admission number, it should look like this. First, the prefix appears, which is this. Then next, the session. So we are currently in 2026 session. You can see from here. So we say 2026. And then this number shows the student's number. And the 4 here shows that it's a 4 digits. So let's say the student's number is the very, very first student of our school. So it will be 0001. So the number 1 student of Venlearn International Schools, we have a student number of VIS 2026 0001, right? So that is what this means. So we've also seen some schools that don't have session parts in their syntax. So for example, they will remove the session like this. So in that case, it looks like this VIS 0001, as the case may be. So whatever your school syntax is, you can use that. But I think most schools have a standard where they specify the session a student belongs to, so that at a glance, they can know the session the student is coming from. It helps with sorting and the likes. Then the next thing we'll do is last admission number. So for example, you have an existing students register or database, and say the last person's admission number is 1,500. So what it means is that if you add a new student, a new enrollment, the student's number would be 1501. So at the end of the day, the student's number, if you're enrolling a student for 2026, you will have a student number VIS 2026 1501. That's what their student number will be. So what this last admission number syntax means is where you want to start from for the new enrollment, what number you want to start counting from, right? If you're a new school, you're just using the app for the first time, you have no students, you can start with 0. But in our case, let's start with 1,500. Then there's also an option, reset admission number per session. So for example, how this works is if you want the number to be reset after each session. So this can be useful if you have a session part, because it will now differentiate it. So after a new session, the session part of the number changes. So it makes sense for us to start counting from the beginning. So what it means is that no 2 students will have exactly the same number as long as the session is a differentiation factor. So if we check this item, what it means is that when we enter a new session, automatically this last number will change to 0 to start counting from 1 all over again. But it doesn't make sense to select this when you don't have a session part for your admission number syntax. Then the next item is the ordering. The ordering is how you want your roll call. Is it last name first before first name before last name, or the other case? So you can choose that option. Then we also have what we call report card option. We can set that we want to show the student results, student photo on the report card. You select it. And we also have what we call the bracket first support. So what it means is that 2 students who have exactly the same score can have the same result. So what it means is that there can be 2 first positions, 2 second positions, as the case may be. So if we want to support that kind of arrangements, we can put brackets first support. You can read more about it. However, there's another option if we select a bracket first support. So what it means is that if there are 2 first positions, should there be a second position, or the system should jump to the 3rd position? So bracket first with spaces helps you with that setting. So if you check this, it means that if there are two first positions, for instance, there wouldn't be a second position. It moves to the third position. So Venlearn software gives you the flexibility to set these things during your setup. So at this point, we are good to go. We can save our settings. So our settings have been saved. And the next thing we are going to do, there's also another option called a report card design. So you can select different kind of design. This is the default design. There's a legacy design. There's a modern design. There's a vibrant design. There are different kinds of design. So let's leave it as the classic design for now. So we wouldn't have to change anything. We'll leave our defaults here. Then the next thing is to check our class group. So now class group usually helps us identify what group belongs to our current. So we are talking about high school. So we know that we don't need the primary school, the nursery school, and the pre-nursery school. So we're good with junior secondary and senior secondary school. So at this point, we're good. Then we have the attendance and the contacts. So under contacts, we can leave attendance at default for now. When we're talking about attendance, we can come back to the configuration here. So under contact, you can add your school email address. So that it can show in your school website or your school reports card. So you can put a phone number as we desire. So whatever it is, we can add it there. So the next configuration we're going to do is for sessions. So session we can configure our session. Essentially, since we chose a 3-term structure or 3-term system, we should pick our start dates, our end dates, as well as the time our next term begins. This is very important, especially in results computation and other features of the app. So let's say our first term for the new session is beginning in September. So pick September. Let's say it's starting on September 21st. And then it is ending in December, say December 18th. 2026. We choose a new term. New term should start in 2027, say January 11. So we can set for first term as well as second term and third term. So at this point, we are good to go, and that's it for this session. The next thing we're going to be talking about is creating classes and ARMs.